day, IGCSE and BGCSE students. Today, I'm still a historian, and from our past lesson, we are still doing the causes of World War I. And still, today, we are still on them. This must be a great war to have so many causes. So we are still going to scour through and analyze even more. What really caused World War I? Who is to blame for World War I? And through that, today we'll be looking at the war plans. I am Thiru, and we will continue on the causes of the World War. So from our last lesson, remember that we were covering colonial rivalry and also military rivalry. So today we'll be looking at the war plans, like the Sclaven Plan. Who devised the Sclaven Plan? Which country was it? Plan 17, it was for which country? Which other countries had their own plans? And what were the terms of those plans and their plans as well? So we shall be looking at those war plans, analyzing them, scrutinizing them to find out what really and how they really contributed to World War I. So let's go on our voyage through the war plans. And let us start with the most common one, the Sclaven Plan. The Sclaven Plan was actually designed by General von Sclaven, who was one of the commanders of the German army. So we can say that it was actually a plan for the Germans. It was actually modified by General von Mott, especially approaching the time of the war. So the Sclaven Plan was based on a bunch of assumptions which we should actually know about. Firstly, the assumption was that Russia would take long to mobilize, especially when the war began, because Russia was actually a large country. So trying to bring all the soldiers together was actually seen as a problem by General von Sclaven. As such, they saw that even if Russia was there, it should take long to mobilize. Actually, by the time when the war was finished, that is when she would actually be preparing for war. That was one of the assumptions that were made. It was also said that, it was also assumed that war would be done in a matter of a quick victory. It is said that Germany, according to this plan, Germany would attack France and finish with France in 6 weeks, then move on to Russia, finish with Russia maybe in 2 to 3 months. That was the assumption that the Germans made. We would see in the future, was this true during the war? Did this actually happen? Was France defeated in a matter of 2 weeks and Russia beaten down in a matter of 3 months? Tune in to our next lessons to see that. And then for the Sclaven Plan, the other thing was, other assumption was that Britain would actually not intervene into this war. Why did they assume that? It is actually said that because Germany was actually afraid of fighting war on two fronts, which was the Western Front, which included France, and also the Eastern Front, which had Russia. So she didn't want to fight two countries at once. That is why she planned quick victory. So she planned on attacking France through Belgium. Now, Belgium was declared a neutral state through the Treaty of London in 1839. And it was a treaty that was actually facilitated by the British. So the Germans believed that, come on, Britain, you can't go over a scrap of paper to come and attack us. So that was the assumption that we made of the Sclaven Plan. And some of the terms is that when the war actually broke out, Germany would attack France through Belgium, 6 weeks finish up, and also go back and also fight Russia, in a matter of 3 months. So the Germans really would say, they were really ambitious. They would see themselves so much powerful that they were untouchable. But really, we will see as we go on to look at the Sclaven Plan and its impact on the war, and why it actually failed, because it really failed, and I think it led to the demise and the humiliation, the utter defeat of the Germans. So let us look at the other plans. We have also other plans like France's Plan 17. And in France's Plan 17, we see that here, France didn't really have much of a plan, but decided to fortify areas near Alsace-Lorraine. Remember Alsace-Lorraine from the Treaty of Frankfurt, which was in which Germany had actually taken Alsace-Lorraine, one of the most economical destinations of France. They took these two places, and France was actually humiliated. But because these areas were in between or were right at the border of France and Germany, France decided to make forts around these areas. It is said that so many forts were created, and it is one of the reasons why it took long. The long took long because of the forts that were created by France. So we see that also countries like Russia didn't have much of a plan, but they said that we are going to use force. We are going to use the numbers game, as it is called, because we know that Russia is a big continent, larger, more numbers of people. That means it is going to use its own population as an added advantage into winning the war, which was inevitably to come. And we also see other plans like Austria-Hungary, in which they decided to create more manufacturing companies or manufacturing areas to make more arms, produce more weapons, make more military cars, make more military guns, develop and innovate more advanced weaponry. And we see that that is the plan that was made by the Austria-Hungarians. So from these plans, we realize that some of these plans, especially like the Sclaven plan, it actually influenced some countries that were actually not supposed to be part of the war, to be part of the war. Like Belgium. I'm sure most of you have seen a source whereby we see a big man with a big stick. And in front of the big man, there's a small boy with a small stick who's actually saying, you can't pass easily. In that source, we see that that small boy was Belgium. Belgium, as we know, through the Treaty of London of 1839, it was a neutral country. But due to Germany's force, because Germany thought that it would just rampage through, but because Belgium resisted, Belgium ended up joining the war. So we see also through war plans, there was also the suspicion. Some countries were like, really, they must have a plan for me. It is said that Plan 17 was actually made against the Sclaven plan that was made by the Germans. So there was a lot of suspicion and also hostility. Some countries were actually eager to actually go into war to test their plans, as we can see. And from there on, we could see that war was actually unavoidable. It was to come, and it was also although it wasn't hoped for, all people through Europe, even the Americans could see that it was coming. But then we can see that it wasn't actually the war plans that was the spark of the war, but the other immediate cause that we're going to look in. So next time, before we go into the next lesson, in our next video, try to research more on the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, and also previous Balkan Wars, and also read more on the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So tune in our next video, so that we can now look at the immediate cause of the World War I, and we can now finish with the cause of World War, and now analyze the peace treaties that came after that. See you next time.